What happens when you toss flat, straight, and square out the window? Or what happens when you set a coffee table on fire? When you pour molten brass into a void? And when a mistake turns into one of the most beautiful aspects of a piece? There's this question that I'm always nervous to ask new clients during my discovery process. How do you want this piece to make you feel? It's so much more nebulous than other questions like what functional requirements do you have? Or what are the dimensions of your space? Or do you have a budget in mind? But I'm always surprised how quickly clients get it and start telling me all sorts of personal details about their lives that they hope to be reflected in the piece. In this case, my client wanted a coffee table that made them and their guests feel calm. They hoped the style of the piece would have Eastern influence, and they shared a book they wrote with me that sparked an idea. And then I saw it, the image they used on the cover. This was the missing piece. Kintsugi, which translates to golden joinery, is the Japanese art of repairing broken pottery. To embrace the spirit of what author Christy Bartlett writes about in their book Flickwork, The Aesthetics of Mended Japanese Ceramics, I decided to pour molten brass into a void I carved into the tabletop. This would highlight what Christy writes about. Not only is there no attempt to hide the damage, but the repair is literally illuminated. It wasn't until a few days before delivery that I was able to take the piece from feeling chaotic to the intended feeling of calm. On most projects, I try and choose one challenging design element to push my skills and exceed my client's expectations. For some crazy reason, I chose 4 different challenges for this piece. I blame AI. The first challenge was actually inspired by ChatGPT. I've gotten in the habit of feeding my design intent to DALL-E, OpenAI's image generation tool, and I really enjoy the back and forth that occurs as I describe the fragments of inspiration I have in my head. When I see something I don't like, I provide better direction. When I see something that inspires me, I ask for more. The result is dozens of images, many of which don't even make sense, but all of which enter my own image generation tool, aka my brain, enabling me to choose a path that's more interesting than I would have gone down on my own. I saw this image of a table that had these cool curvy legs that I decided to pursue. I reached way back in the memory bank to use a technique I learned in college to create an incredibly complex set of curves using just a few basic cuts on a bandsaw. After a carefully considered sequence of cuts, out pops your desired form. It was at this point I entered the unknown. I was able to cut the rough shape on the legs, but I was unsure how to smooth such curvy surfaces. To my surprise, the belt sander that my blacksmith lent me the day before ended up being the perfect tool for the job. This type of free workmanship is not common for me when joinery is involved, but I have to believe I was emboldened to trust my hand and eye because I had just lit a table on fire with molten brass the day before. I knew this technique would yield a slightly different profile on every side of each leg, and I can thank my dentist for showing me how to make each leg perfectly match the contour of the adjoining apron. That'll make sense in a minute. The next challenge was how to cut the curved joinery that connects the aprons with the legs. These aprons were kinda hard to make on the computer and felt almost impossible to make in real life. I literally stared at pieces of wood for 2 days until I figured out how to approach the problem. Not only were the ends of the aprons curved, but the edge profile wasn't even 90 degrees. This meant I needed to create a jig that enabled me to route the edge of the apron at an angle. After all that, the sobering truth is that this got me close to a perfect match with the legs, but not all the way. Because remember, I freehanded each side of the leg at the belt sander, yielding a different profile. Now I get to tell you how the heck dentistry saved the day. If you've ever gotten dental work done, where they have to change the profile on your tooth with a filling or a crown, the dentist has to freehand the final fit. The way they do this is by using dental paper.
I take my foil and I place it back and I have Brooke tap, tap, tap.
Thin paper coated with ink that leaves marks when you bite down, indicating where a high spot exists. I tried this same approach using chalk to reveal the high spots, and it was a surprisingly easy no-think method for getting a good fit. I ended up using the router jig as the reference face to drill the leg mortises. Figuring out how to clamp all these weird angles together was a challenge in and of itself. The story of making the Kintsugi tabletop actually starts on Instagram. One of my 2025 goals is to elevate the quality of my work by collaborating with other talented creators. And I was eager to partner with Bradley to incorporate custom metalwork into this piece. Arriving at Bradley's workspace is like stepping into a different era. As the coal-powered forge he salvaged and restored himself heated up, we cut up bits of brass to be melted into a crucible. It turns out, asking a blacksmith to melt a bunch of brass down and pour it onto furniture is a little uncommon, so we started with some test pieces. After feeling emboldened by mild success, I set about routing a Kintsugi-inspired pattern into the tabletop. It was finally the big day, and I headed to North Durham to see the blacksmith. The biggest difference between the test pour and the real pour was the scale of everything. It took longer to melt more brass into a bigger crucible, and we had to pour the goopy brass across a larger surface area. We had one shot at this, and if we messed it up, there was no going back. During the first pour, the heavy crucible, full to the brim with 1700 degrees soup, tipped out of the holder and sent fiery brass across the table in every direction.
Oh shit!
Well, round one, in true Kintsugi fashion, there is brokenness in the whole design concept, and when it's brought back together, it's kind of more beautiful. It was an interesting first pour. We're going to do a second pour and see if we can fill all the channels with brass. As we wrapped our work for the day, I stood there, looking at the surface of what now resembled a Mars battlefield, and I had this sinking feeling. Did I just ruin the tabletop beyond repair? I suppose a Kintsugi-inspired piece that went off without a hitch wouldn't be true to the spirit of an object that evidences both crisis and cure. I used all manner of grinders, routers, and sanders to resurface the top. It's funny, I was initially scared of doing bold, exposed joinery for the drawer, since I don't often cut dovetails, but this seemed so easy after all the other challenges I had worked through. I suppose that's one of the things I learned on this project. When you push your boundaries in one area, it opens up possibilities everywhere else. This table taught me that mistakes are not the end of the story. They're part of the process. And honestly, that's how I feel about starrwoodworks. I have a vision for my business, but I don't know exactly where it will lead, and that excites me. If you're looking for a piece that tells a story, one that's expressive, meaningful, and designed just for you, I'd love to create something together. If you're passionate about craft and you'd like a closer look at my furniture builds, design process, and what it takes to run a one-person shop, I recently launched a Patreon just for you. I'll be sharing exclusive behind-the-scenes access to my work you won't see anywhere else. Links in the description.